The journey of balance is a key part of the exploration of life, and it contributes both to well being and performance. Balance is this continuous conversation. It's the ability to feel a shift in one direction, correct it, and adjust moment to moment. Balance is something you pass through during a series of overcorrections. The question is, how far do you go in one direction before you're aware where you are and then shift and come back the other direction? There are many aspects of lifestyle to consider and therefore balance. We suggest nutrition, movement, mental performance, and recovery are the first foundational four to put your energy into. When you are out of balance, there can be a number of negative consequences. The main thing is that the further you go in this single direction, the harder it is to come back. This is neuroplasticity because you're practicing heading in that direction. Also, once you get really far out of balance in that direction, it's hard to even know that you're out of balance because your body and everything adjusts to it. So this is where we suggest you have guides in these four areas so they can help direct you back into a balanced state. Too much of some things and a lack of other things will have negative consequences on both your health and your performance. I learned this the hard way. One of my biggest struggles in life is balance. I would think I was doing pretty well, and then I learned something new and I realized that I'm actually out of balance. For example, up until about 3 years ago, I was sitting heavily in my yang state and also focused a lot in my masculine. It hadn't even occurred to me that there was a balance between yang and yin or masculine and feminine. It hadn't occurred to me. I was working out 2+ hours a day, 4 days a week. I was jumping off things. I was surfing. I was doing all these very yang things. Plus, I was building a brand new company in a developing country. I was hustling. And I'd already started to decide about lifestyle balance, but I just hadn't got to this space yet. So I was thinking about my movement, my nutrition, my timing, and things like that. And I was slightly into mental performance, but I hadn't really got to this stage yet. So basically, I began using yin yoga. It all started there. Yin yoga was helping to balance my nervous system. It was helping me go to a parasympathetic state, rest and digest, instead of always sitting in that sympathetic state, that fight or flight state, which is what yang is. And then I was starting to get the idea of this, okay, I need to balance, when I'm going, and when I'm recovering and regenerating. And then, boom, I found this whole new axis that I hadn't considered, which was this masculine and feminine. I realized I was going through life in a very defensive posture with a story about how my life was like a fight. This is a very common athletic stance, a fight stance, ready to go at any moment. Ready for anything, good to go at all times, like go, go, go. Now, I've changed my lifestyle a lot to incorporate more feminine. So how did I do this? Well, it all started when I was lifting heavy weights. I would feel my body sort of tapping me and saying, something's not quite right here. So if I wanted to deadlift heavy, I would get a nerve-like twinge. It wasn't a pain. It didn't stop me. I could have pushed through, but it was just a little notification, if you will, like, hello, something here needs your attention. I also noticed that when I was doing muscle-ups, I would get a similar sort of nerve twinge. Something just didn't feel right in my right shoulder. So I started to explore this a bit more. And I spent a couple of years trying to make subtle adjustments to my movements to try and release whatever was going wrong or realign what was going wrong. But my osteo and my physio both were like, everything is just too constricted. It's too tight. And so I came to a decision point where I said, okay, I have a choice. Do I continue this masculine mindset and push through? Because it wasn't an actual injury. Do I keep lifting? Do I keep going, even though my body is giving me a little notification, which is likely a precursor to injury? Or do I listen? Do I listen to my body, pull back, and regroup? So, because of the work I had been doing, especially with yin yoga and this yin and yang concept, I decided to regroup. I didn't want to proceed and have some sort of catastrophic injury. So, in order to regroup, I had to stop all movement that reinforced my old movement patterns, my masculine movement patterns, which are chest forward, shoulders up, move forward under all circumstances, just keep going. So I stopped all activity. And you may think that yoga is considered a feminine sport, but it can be done in actually a masculine or feminine way, just like all sports can, just like life can. So because I had trained my body for years to exist and move in a masculine way, I was even trained then to do yoga in a masculine way. So it didn't act as a part of this regroup cycle. So I had to stop everything. I did this for a whole year, which was incredibly difficult for me because I've been an athlete since I was a teenager. And there's never another part in my life where I had a full year where I didn't train. I had to surrender, which is another feminine concept. So I did a total regroup. How do I rebalance my life and move from this place of heavy, really far out in the masculine to a more central, balanced place? Well, step one was I stopped moving my body so that I could soften and expand. Contraction was my permanent state, and now I needed to move into a state of expansion. Think my muscles getting longer instead of them getting bigger. I needed space in my joints and in my body for this realignment to happen. So after an entire year of expanding and softening, I actually found that almost nothing changed. There were some subtle changes, but my primary muscle groups were still contracted. They were still engaged. This is where I learned a huge lesson about my body. And a lot of that is that my body movement is also mental. So I had to begin an entire mindset journey. I had to adjust my mindset from a masculine place into a more balanced place. I had the habit of being masculine through and through. Now I have spent the last 2 years softening and nurturing my mindset, accepting surrender, letting go of control, moving from a space of needing to know, always wanting to understand everything, to a place of curiosity with space to learn new things. I've begun to dance as a form of emotional expression. I spend a significant amount of time checking in with my emotions and then sitting in them and being present with them so that I can hear them, feel them, and hear what they're trying to tell me. I listen a lot more. I talk a lot less. I'm much more vulnerable in my interaction with myself and with others. I also was lucky enough to find a series of female teachers, such as Brene Brown, who talks about vulnerability, Glennon Doyle about being your natural wild self, Regina, Mama Gina, Thomas Howler, who talks about femininity, divine femininity, Sheila Kelly, who talks about moving in order to learn about a feminine expression, and also Kasia Urbaniak, who talks about femininity in power negotiation situations. So there's all kinds of very interesting people out there doing interesting things, and this was a whole world that I had not been introduced to, that I was missing out on because I was way out of balance. Now I'm 4 years in, and I'm just starting to have new movement routines. 4 years. My new optimal lifestyle and my new ways to move, which are very different from what was happening for me before. My body has changed. My osteo, my physio, they repeat it to me over and over. They report it is for the better. I have more space. I can let go. My body can relax, finally. And in order to protect my movement abilities over the longest period of my life, which is what I want. I want to be able to play sports and learn new things into my 60s, into my 70s. I had to stop. I had to regroup, and I had to focus on these very seemingly small alignment issues. But my body was telling me something. And the conclusion for me is a happier body, a cleaner, more subtle mindset, which is much improved. And I've learned a huge amount about myself and my femininity. Now, I am working on fine-tuning when I want to be feminine and when I want to be masculine. And I want to be clear that this is for men too. This isn't just for women. You don't want to have any aspect, because that's not in balance, that you always default to one side. The goal here is to be able to move in between the two with fluidity. Know when you want to go this way and know when you want to turn this other thing on. That is the goal here. I'm learning to be more flexible, less rigid. And this is my definition of balance at this time. I may go back to lifting weights. I may even go back to kickboxing. But now I will come in with a new perspective to explore both of these sports in a feminine way. And you can do that with any area of your life. It's not just movement. It can be nutrition. It can be how you engage with others. It can be how you learn things. It can be how you work. It can be how you build the business. It's everything. So going forward, how do you check in with your imbalances? I have come up with 2 ways that we think do this for you. So the first one is, like my story, listen to your body. Make sure that you're in a constant dialogue with yourself. If you have a small twinge or pull or even just tightness, stop and be curious about that. Why is that there? What is your body asking you for? What would it take to realign this? Because it's usually an indication of some imbalance in your body. And if one side is stronger than the other, or one side weaker than the other, then you've greatly increased your chances for injury, and you've definitely decreased your chances of performance. A useful tool for this dialogue with your body is a body scan. Now, the second part is the exact same thing, but with your mindset, with your emotions. So you can take a moment to acknowledge when an emotion comes up for you, and then you can sit with it and identify it. Be curious about what is your mind telling you. Like the physical, the emotional pulling can alert you to a source of stress or tension. Close your eyes and ask yourself, what emotions are you feeling right now? Then consider, what is the catalyst for that emotion? What do you need to address this emotion? And I think it's important here. I actually have got to where I can identify 7 or more emotions at one time. One might be the main big prominent one, and then there might just be what I call a splash of some smaller ones. But I try to be as specific as possible. So you may be surprised. You may know it intellectually, but once you start practicing this, you may be surprised at how often these 2 things are connected. The body scan and what you find from your body, and the emotional side, what you're listening to, what your mind is telling you. All of these things are interconnected. Your body can impact your mind, and your mind will impact your body. This is our Chosen Insight series. Next up, we encourage you to watch the video about knowing when to engage and when to relax, which is pretty similar to this one, but it goes a bit deeper, especially for athletes. And there's another one I'd like you to watch about positivity, which will discuss finding balance in your mental habit of viewing the world from a negative place versus having a positive point of view. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. See you there.